Quantum Leap takes us back to this universe 30 years later. How has it been to be a part of something that's supposed to be both refreshing but also familiar? Is it something complicated to achieve?
It's been very exciting. You know, when you have a revival like this, it's for a reason. It's because it was previously really loved, and probably the times demand something that is necessary in popular culture, or something is perhaps happening around the world that feels unstable, so you need something stable. And we're very happy to bring that to audiences. And what's exciting about our version is that even though all the tenets and the mythology is the same, our show is very different. And we're very excited to show the audiences what's different.
Yeah, and the show is very different because it has actually infinite possibilities, and you're watching the show and you think that anything can happen. You can jump to, I mean, not any time because there are some limits, but you can think that anything can happen as actors. How do you feel when you have that huge range of possibilities? Does it help you to discover your characters from different perspectives, or does it make it harder to deepen in them because you are always jumping to different places?
Yeah, I like to not know everything. I know that's Caitlin's gonna have the opposite answer. But for me, I like to know as much as is available to me, and perhaps if there's an arc that we're drawing out that's much further down the line, maybe I want to know those things. But as far as what's happening in each episode and what's happening between the characters, I like to discover them sort of in real time, and then to have a couple days to work at how I'm going to play this. But it's amazing to have the opportunity to tell any story, to jump into possibly any time. And I think that's what keeps our show really exciting. It certainly is what keeps it fresh for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the answer is both, which I know is a bad answer. As Raymond said, I do like to know all the things. I study for the test. I do.
I wing it.
Yeah, yes, that is very true of our personalities and characters baked in. But also, which is one of the things I love about this show, is no matter where you leap to and what the rules are, what the cultural rules, this is cross-cultural, this is cross-timeline, everybody at their base is concerned about the same things. They're concerned about their loved ones. They're concerned about what people think about them, about if they're going to be safe, if their family is going to be safe. Like it's always what people are worried about. So regardless of where you put these characters and where you put their relationships, those truisms are plenary. Like they will go on forever. So, in some ways, yes, it is a bit of a challenge to be constantly put into a new world, but then sometimes it makes the similarities so much clearer because they're true everywhere.
And sometimes when a show has so many possibilities that it can go almost anywhere, it can lead to some inconsistencies. Mm-hmm. What does the show, what foundation do you think that it has to strengthen the idea of the show, to not go to that inconsistent place, to become cohesive?
I mean, what's amazing about just the structure of the show is that it's nearly perfect for network television, right? It is essentially a procedural where we know what's going to somewhat play out with each episode, but what's incredible about our version and what's very exciting for our writers to track is the serialized aspect of the story now. Now that we've included an entire cast of characters and a family back at headquarters, both sides inform one another to see how the characters build and how things change and how the dynamics continue to shift. And the exciting part is new episode, new leap, new time, new people, but you get to follow now. And that's, I think, the backbone. The procedural part is the backbone of the show, but what we're filling it up with organs and fluids and blood and skin is I can keep going. Eyeballs and mouth and teeth and hair. Okay. Is what we're building out. We want to flesh out this story. That's pretty good.
Nailed it.
Yeah, thanks.
And then also, I think the characters themselves ground it, right? Because regardless of where we leap to, Ian is trying to fix Ziggy. Regardless of where we lead to, Jen has a security problem. You know what I mean? And Ben lost his memory. So there's just, those things are and also, like you said, like you have to solve the problem. Ben has to figure out the right thing to do or else we don't move on. And I think that's a really great thing to watch every week. Like
you're saying, I mean, there's this procedural backbone in the show, but there's also the characters. And after watching the pilot, I think that one of the strengths of the show is the relationship between your characters, because it's so different from what we're used to see in TV. I wanted to build this dynamic between Ben and Addison because they are really close all the time, but at the same time they are really, really far away.
Yeah, the longest distance relationship possible. For me, it's such a joy to play all these different things that make a relationship. You know, my love language personally is touch is a very big one. And when you can't touch the person you love, how do you show that in a different way? Because you have to compensate for that somewhere. And also, if I'm supposed to love this person and I have no memory of loving this person, how does that play into this dynamic? And all the while, I can feel her love, Addison's love for Ben. And I know that there was something there. And so to have to fill in all those pockets is such an exciting challenge for me. And I really enjoy playing at those dynamics.
Yeah, I also think it keeps it very alive because there's, I've said this before, but some of my most intimate, in the literal meaning of that word, relationships have never been touch-centric, sexual. You know, like they're like close relationships that built me and built my life that never had really a physical aspect to it. So it creates this ability to continue to deepen a relationship without ever crossing that certain line, which I think is really nice and a bit refreshing for, you know, how we're constantly seeing just sex everywhere. Yeah. It's nice and complicated.
You've had to face all of the challenges that the show has for you in your first lead, in your first real lead roles in a network show, I think, no? So yeah. How was it to go through all that process? Because network TV is really complicated to get to it. You have to go through the pilot episode, get the green light and everything. And so how was it for you to have that first lead role and in a really beloved IP, which is, I guess, that an extra pressure for you?
This role and this job is everything I've ever wanted to do. I've watched science fiction and adventure stories my whole life, and I've watched fish out of water characters, the unlikely hero characters, always overcome impossible odds, and I thought, how incredible would it be to deliver that story to audiences and me being the conduit for it. And this is a role I've dreamt of doing ever since I wanted to act. So that part of it was just unbridled excitement at the possibilities of what I can do. As far as the pilot and getting picked up and getting the series order and getting I know about it. I've never been through it. I think there were folks who were much more stressed out than I was because I really believed in our project, and I like to lead with optimism, and I love something as much as I can, and if it goes away, it'll go away. But why think about the possibilities of something that it can't happen? And I don't like negative thinking, so I just thought it was going to go all the way. I think we're going to continue to go all the way, and we're going to tell the story as much as we want to tell it.
Yeah, and everything has gone really well because you have been already renewed for a second season. So what do you think that has connected the most with the US audience, and what feedback have you received? And do you think that that connection can translate to a Spanish audience?
I absolutely believe it can, and it actually kind of ties into my answer earlier, where there are certain truths that traverse cross-cultural, cross-time, across all those things. And I think one of the favorite things that I heard when I got first cast in this role and that they were bringing it back was that all my friends would say, I watched this with my family. I used to go and sit down in the living room and I would watch it with my parents and my siblings and all these people. And what's amazing is that those same audiences are coming back to watch this new iteration, but they're introducing it to their kids, just like people do with Ghostbusters and Jurassic Park and Star Trek and, you know, like all Star Wars, all those wonderful stories that were beloved, and then it can be passed on, and now it can be a family thing. And I love hearing that people are watching this together in this age of everyone in the room on their devices and watching separate things and thinking separate things, and so it's a family show. It's a real family show in America again, which is so fantastic, and I think that will cross into Spain because there's still families here, and I think they still want to be connected and find things to bond over, and I hope Quantum Leap can do that.
Yeah.
And about that, my final question about that second season, we cannot talk about that here in Spain. We're going to watch the first one. But how are you living this moment in Hollywood, which now there's the writer's strike? How are you living this uncertainty, not knowing when are you going to be able to work in the second season, not knowing when is it going to release?
Yeah, it's a very unique time to be in, and a lot of people's livelihoods are at stake. You know, last time this happened, people had to lose their homes and you know, had to pull their kids out of preschool. You know, it's not a fun time. Certainly, uncertainty is not a great feeling. And our show is in solidarity fully. Everybody is in solidarity with the writers, and we all need better contracts. With that said, our showrunners have done an amazing job of getting ahead of the situation, knowing that there is something coming. And therefore, we didn't take a break between seasons, and we ran straight into season 2, which was physically demanding, but we knew that we had to do this so we can make sure that we could have a fall release back in the States. And so I think we're in a fortunate situation because we have new episodes to show. Of course, that's not the same for every show out there, and you know, we just hope this can get resolved sooner than later.
And we're also fortunate because we know we're coming back. We know we're going to go finish the second season. There's a lot of shows that might not get picked up again because the break's too long, just like a lot of shows ended in the pandemic. And it's a scary time, and you know, we hope it's resolved as quickly as possible and as fairly as possible. But we are in a very fortunate position, and we're really thankful for that.